All right, you're tuned in to the world according to Rocky, and I am your host, Rocky Miller. You're listening. We have a very special show planned for you today. We have a candidate for WISD school board who's going to come talk with me today. But before I get started, I have to mention a couple things. One is I have to mention that it is tax season, and it is a tremendous time. Uh, it's a great time for you to get your taxes done at Prosperity Tax Service. If you uh, need a tax professional, we have more than 20 years of experience in business doing taxes, and we are a customer-centric business who provides excellent customer service to our customers. So I wanted to get that out the way. And if, in fact, you need our service, you can give us a call at 254-235-5662. We're doing a lot of amazing things at Prosperity Tax Service. We're making the tax experience much more seamless and engaging in order to prevent the least amount of for you to use the least amount of time. I'm live on the air and I'm getting the call. However, I'm hold on. All right, we're trying to get Pastor Marlon hooked up here right quick. All right, let me get it. It's always something. So I'm doing it at the comforts of my home. Pastor Marlon thought we were going to do it in studio in the office. We got our wires kind of crossed on that, and that's my apologies for you. But as I was talking about Prosperity Tax Service, what I wanted to say is we've got a lot of new things going on to reduce the amount of time that it takes you to invest in getting your taxes done. We can do it in a thorough, secure manner with you using the least amount of time as possible. There's no need to drive to our office. There's no need to wait in line. There's no need to sit in our office and in our waste time. We have a client portal that allows you to load up your documents and get your tax return done in a safe manner, giving you excellent customer service. You'll be notified as your return goes through the preparation process. It's really neat. And all of our customers who have filed so far have absolutely loved it. And for those of you who are ready to file, just want you to know the IRS began accepting refunds on the 24th. And we have several clients who've already filed, and some of them have even began to receive fast cash advances of those who were interested in receiving those as well. So, I also want to let you guys know that I am the president of the McLennan County, Texas Coalition of Black Democrats. If you are interested in becoming a member of the Texas Coalition of Black Democrats, please don't hesitate. Please don't hesitate to give me a call, reach out on social media, reach out to Keisha, our membership, vice president of membership is Lisa Carter, and she can definitely help you out as well. But we are in the process of getting ready for these upcoming elections. We have some very important elections that are happening in our community this November. We have primaries on March 1st, I believe. And then we have local school board and city elections on May 3rd. I think it's May 3rd. And so as I start talking about city elections, I want to thank my wife for getting Pastor Marlon all squared away. Again, I apologize for not getting everything together, but I wanted to bring Pastor Marlon up. Pastor Marlon, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Okay, I don't have any sound, Pastor Marlon. Hold on.
What about now?
Let me see.
Can you
Can you
hear
hear
me?
me? Oh,
I
if
can
you
hear
can hear me,
you.
I hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep.
You can hear me. Let me see. Let me check my mic. Let me just check a few things here. All right, Pastor Marlon, go ahead and reply.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I can hear. I can definitely hear you now. Thank
Okay.
you. Hey, first off, I want to thank you for coming on my podcast. I know this is a kind of short notice. I reached out to you, and you gladly accepted my request. And I apologize for not being clear about the meeting location, but I definitely wanted to make sure that we had a sit down conversation because you had a very important announcement to make. You've already made the announcement, so I just want to tell us, kind of tell me what inspired you to go ahead and run for school board here in Waco.
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for allowing me to share, on this platform. Um, there really is no kind of short way to say that, but ultimately, I feel like this is something that I've been called to do. In 2018, my wife and I and our family, we lived in the city of Fort Worth. I pastored a church in Fort Worth, the Stop Six area. I also was working for a national nonprofit that served youth, promoting youth entrepreneurship across the country. And part of my role was connecting the community to the classroom and providing resources within the community. And I had a meeting with a gentleman who at the time was the chair of the board for the Fort Worth Black Chamber. And I was just talking to him about getting students connected and different resources that were out there. And during the conversation, he started asking me some questions that didn't really seem like they fit the conversation that we were having. And then he ultimately said, he said that the CEO, a gentleman who passed away in 2021, he said he'll be retiring soon. He said, and we're looking for somebody that can take his place. We're looking for somebody that we can groom to be the next leader for the organization. And then he said to me, how much would it take for you to be that person? And I asked him, like, what are you saying? He was like, what would your salary need to be? What would your benefits need to be? And he began to aggressively pursue me for that position. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is because Fort Worth is in the shadow of Dallas, they don't realize that at that time, Fort Worth was the 15th largest city in the United States. It has grown since then.
Wow.
And so we are talking about a major opportunity to have a very influential role within the city of Fort Worth. But then a couple of days later, I got a phone call from George Johnson, who is retired city manager here in Waco. He's also a presiding elder in the AME church. And he said, hey, there is a church here in Waco. The church has faced some difficulties and they need a strong leader. Would you consider relocating your family to Waco and serving at that church? So my wife and I, we had some conversation and we took it to the Lord in prayer. And we felt like the Lord was saying Waco was the place that we needed to be. And so when we made the move to Waco at the end of 2018, I came with the understanding that I wasn't simply coming to be the pastor of St. Luke AME Church, but I was coming to serve Waco. And so since I've been here, I've looked for opportunities to provide leadership, and I've stepped up and I've done that. And so initially, my desire to run for WacoISD School Board at large is a part of what I feel to be my calling and the reason that I'm here. And that's just the reality. I could share that, I have children and my wife is in the district and all of those things. That's part of it. But even if I had no children, I would still be running because I feel like I have been called to do this work.
So, Pastor Marlon, I'm from Waco. I was born and raised here. I've lived large majority of my life here in Waco. I graduated from Waco schools. All four of my children at one point or another attended WISD schools. However, there was a point as a parent where my wife and I, we made a choice that we were going to take our children out of the district and go to a suburban district, and for educational reasons. And what want to, you definitely aware of the difficulties that the school, that WISD faces, right? What you, and I guess this, just tell me, how familiar are you with the challenges that face WISD is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I would say I'm very familiar with the challenges that WacoISD faces. When I came in 2018, it was right on the heels of kind of the fallout of Dr. Nelson, and that experience rocked the community, and still to this day, we feel the impacts of that. Dr. Nelson was a transformational leader who understood the challenges that faced the district, and had the ability to do something that I think is extremely unique. That is, connect the community to the school to begin to bridge some of those gaps, but then also innovative enough to rescue schools that were on the verge of closing. And so when you talk about the challenges that face the district, I'm very familiar with the challenges. But moving here in 2018, I would it would be presumptuous for me to act as if I understand it all. I don't. And so my campaign is built on the platform of listening to lead. And what that means is, before I can lead a district, before I can lead a community, I first have to be able to hear from that community. The reason just a little bit late getting started is because today I was hosting a listening session with educators, and on that one listening session we had well over 100 years experience, and I was able to hear from educators who were in WacoISD for over 30 plus years, administrators who were in WacoISD over 30 plus years, and hear from them what it is that will make this district successful. And so I am familiar, but then I'm also becoming much more familiar as I hear from the community on what we need as a district.
Well, again, that is, it seems like you're really in tune. And I remember when you, if I'm not mistaken, you had an opportunity to speak during the session when they were contemplating, when the district was, I guess, deliberating Dr. Nelson's future with the district. Is that correct? I know I've heard you speak, but I think that was the first meeting I had heard you speak. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was at a number of those meetings, but
I guess this was the district board meeting.
So I was at a district board meeting. The first one that I spoke at was when they were voting to extend the offer of superintendent to Dr. Kincannon. And at that meeting, I shared some concerns.
Maybe that's what I recall. And I recall your position at that point was that she did not have the experience, and there was a conflict of interest surrounding her being hired. And you brought that up as an issue, and it seemed like that fell on deaf ears. And in my opinion, that has been one of the problems with our district. And just to make it full circle, my wife and I currently live in East Waco, and we are in the sector once again, and so we will be voting for someone in this upcoming election. And so with that being said, I think we all have a tremendous stake. But what I really want to say is that we have been looking for someone up until specifically Keith and Jeremy were elected, we were looking for someone to listen to the community and take our voice to the school board. And up until the point where Jeremy and Trustee Jeremy and Trustee Guillory were elected, I didn't feel that we had that. And it's very important that you have a slogan of listen to lead, because it was apparent to me after my personal attempts to contact the school board member that represents our sector, and also listening to the response of the board related to many community issues. They just have not been responsive to the community's concerns. And I don't care if it's restorative justice, I don't care if it's fighting in schools, I don't care if it's closing schools, I don't care if it's when you talk about bond issues, bond measures, and things like that. It seems like the board has always had their mind made up regardless of what community input they received. And so what steps will you take to engage the community, and that will ultimately, if elected, they will be your decisions, true enough, but what steps will you take to engage the community and get the necessary feedback to understand what the community concerns is and take those concerns to the school board?
Yeah. So I think one thing that that will shape my leadership as a trustee is just removing the excuse that parents don't show up. I think that's an excuse. I am a parent, and I realize that oftentimes parents are stretched thin, and they might not be able to make a Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And what that doesn't mean is that they're not engaged and that they don't care. I think when it comes to engaging parents, we have to adopt a model that, I challenge, the church to adopt as well. And that is stop waiting for people to come to you and go to the people. You don't have to wait for a special math night, or you don't have to wait for parents to come to you. But if you really want to hear from parents, go to where parents are. I envision doing things like during tax-free weekend, having a kiosk set up in the mall where parents are, and not worrying about if they're going to show up and come and see me.
Great
But if you
idea.
don't show up to my school, I'm gonna be right there where you're going to be at anyway. If we have the fair going on, we should have a booth or two at the fair where we can interact with parents right where they are. And so I think there are many ways that we can go to where parents are. The things that I'm doing during my campaign are things that I would continue to do. I plan on having washateria conversations. I'm going to go to the laundromat and I'll talk to you where you are. I'm hosting listening sessions virtually. You just have to remove every excuse. And you don't have to necessarily capture all parents. But if you're not hearing from any parents, and then you can at least hear from one, you're doing better. And so not necessarily worrying about if I reach the masses, but willing to have one-on-one conversations and going to wherever parents are to be able to hear from them.
And you can say that parents aren't engaged, but when we have been engaged and when we have reached out to the school district, our concerns go on deaf ears. At what point do we save our breath? And since in most cases your mind is made up before you even make contact with the public, you do all your bidding in backdoor sessions, and you come out with an idea of what your vision is for the district rather than, again, listening to the concerns of the community. That has been, in my opinion, the leadership style of the board for over 20 years. And people have grown apathetic because they don't feel that they're being heard, Pastor Marlon.
Yeah.
And I think I believe if parents feel that they have input, at the end of the day, parents make the largest investment you can make in a school district.
Yeah.
Which is sending their kids to school. No one in the system, not a teacher, not a principal, not a superintendent, not anybody makes more of an investment in a school district than a parent. And parents should be leading the way in determining what the direction is in what the schools district should be providing children, and and should be an integral part in crafting the vision for the school district. Because at the end of the day, parents want the very best outcome for their children.
Yeah.
They don't want substandard schools. They don't want substandard facilities. They want the very best. And so with that being said, you know, I'm so glad to hear that you're willing to listen to parents, because I can go through a number of situations where the district didn't listen. But again, I'm glad to hear that you will have a listening ear, and that's exactly what our community needs in this season.
Yeah. And I think it's also important, as you say, that parents are invested in their children's education. That is so true. But educators are also invested. And I think that's something that we miss. And far too many times there is a tension that's created that doesn't have to be. It's not like parents want students to be successful and educators don't. Everybody wants the children to be successful. And so the real question is, how do we find the synergy? How do we work together better? And those are the types of solutions that we need to look to. First, realizing that everybody's on the same team. Everybody has this same desire and this same passion. And so, I envision having parent academies, because parents need to be empowered on the processes of, how do I appeal a grade? How do I engage a teacher? What does that look like? What are the proper steps? How do we help parents better understand how they navigate this education system? Things change often, and we want to make sure that parents are educated on, these are the best practices. This is how you can talk to an educator before the situation blows up. Because a lot of times what we do is we operate in crisis mode, and we're trying to put out a fire because on the front end we didn't have things in place that provided opportunities to address concerns. And so putting those types of things in place and making sure parents are aware of them, and helping parents understand that their voice matters, and that they are really partners. And that's how I see parents. They are partners in education. They are valued partners, and their voice matters.
You're absolutely right. And when I said parents has the most important investment, it wasn't to marginalize the investment of teachers and faculty and students. It was to emphasize that parents need a voice in the process.
Yes, sir.
And oftentimes in this community specifically, parents have had the least amount of input as to what happens in and around our schools, and that needs to stop, and that needs to stop now. One thing I know is that there are a lot of great people in our community. I happen to know a number of amazing educators who are still working for the district when I was a student in the district. And I know the kind of people they are, and I know how much they care about what goes on. But not enough of those people have the right influence in the process. And those people with that kind of experience and that kind of investment and that kind of connection to the community should have more of a influence in what goes on in schools and around schools. So, from what I understand is the district has had some challenges academically, right? And what kind of things do you think the district can do, or what role would you like to play in helping the district achieve its academic goals uh, as they are coming from where they were to where you would like to see them?
So, something that was just shared with me in the conversation that I had with educators is that what educators need is teacher autonomy. And what was meant by that is that there are teachers who know how to help students. but they have to teach in a certain way. You know, they can't teach math by using your fingers. You got to do mental math. There are these different things that they have to do, and many teachers find themselves restricted because they don't have the autonomy to make the adjustments in terms of what needs to be done for a particular student. One thing that I would champion is that teacher autonomy. I think it's important to trust teachers to be the experts that they are. Trusting educators to do what they are passionate about, what they've been to school for, what they've been trained to do. That is one thing that I would do. Two, we also have to realize that we have an educator crisis. I found out this evening, Rocky, that some 50 plus teachers this school year have walked away from the classroom.
Wow.
In the past, they say that number is usually around maybe 9 or so, but some 50 teachers have walked away from the classroom. What that says is that teachers right now are frustrated. Teachers don't feel that they are valued. They are unfulfilled in their role. And this is just, just the reality of it. If you are not fulfilled in the role that you're doing, you don't bring the best version of yourself to work.
You're absolutely right.
And so we have to find a way to better support educators, because when we better support educators, they have the resources that are needed to better support our students. And so what do we need? When I say teacher support, that means we need to ensure that teachers are getting planning periods, that they're not being stretched. If they have an aide, that aide is actually there in the classroom when they're supposed to be. We have to honor a teacher's work-life balance. I spoke to an educator today that said they went to work at 7 a.m. and didn't get off till 6 p.m.
Wow.
And that is the norm. So honoring their work life, giving them that autonomy, and then creating platforms, better platforms, to grow our own educators, to help individuals. When we have this shortage in teachers and we need more teachers, we have to find ways to utilize the paraprofessionals that we have now, providing for them a pathway to becoming certified teachers. And so I think focusing on educators will tremendously help on what we're doing, and then just recognizing where students are.
As I've done research on education and how to achieve the best outcomes, right? How to get the best outcomes out of students. And there are a lot of different studies that are done, right? But there's a study that's undeniable that has been proven over, years, is if the biggest indicator is not the education of the parent, it's not the education of, not economic indicator, it is, and this is kind of tricky because, there's a lot of factors that go into this, but it's a simple equation. If the teacher is of the same ethnicity of the student achievement is higher across the board. And this is for white teachers with white students, Hispanic teachers with Hispanic students, Black teachers with Black students. And if that's the case, right, in a district with our demographics, right, would you consider it appropriate to go out and aggressively recruit minority teachers?
Most definitely. And I think that the way that Waco is growing makes that recruitment a lot easier. One of the priorities that I've established is that we have to develop strategic partnerships. There's a number of developments that are happening throughout Waco, especially on Elm Street. If the district can utilize resources and go to colleges and begin to target, as you said, minority educators, who will be graduating and saying, look, we have a growing city, and we can even provide you stipend for living. We have lofts that are being built right next to a riverfront, restaurants within walking distance. And
And the
this is
school
something
not
that,
far away.
in a school not far away, you know, you can work, live, and play in the same community. And you are presenting this to graduates. I think that the city is growing in such a way that if we establish partnerships, recruiting those teachers is not as difficult as it may seem.
Back when I was growing up, there were a number of, and this is not by statistics or anything like that, but this is just what I know is that there were a number of Black professionals that lived and raised their families in the very same community in which I live now, East Waco, right? And they added value in so many spaces, whether it be the league, baseball, whether it be church, whether it be community events and organizations, sponsorships and the YMCA, and that core group of Black professionals that lived and raised their families here in East Waco were the part of the backbone of this community. And that's one of the things that was devoid from East Waco for a long time, is that there just was not a lot of adequate housing opportunities where professionals, middle class, whatever you want to call them, to live. That's changing. I see that changing, and those opportunities are going to happen. And with the fact that East Waco is, and Waco as a whole, is a more desirable place to live now. You can tell by the increasing housing prices. but I think you're on to something when you talk about when you describe the city and describe the opportunity of working here in Waco, and you put all the quality of life elements in front of a young professional or young graduate or whatever, we can really make a compelling argument as to this is one of the best cities, not only in America, not only in the state, but this is one of the best cities in America to live. And you can get in where it's reasonable, where it's affordable, and it's a really safe place to raise your family. There's many family oriented things that are going on here each and every week, and so I think you're on to some, Pastor Marlon, when you think about it. Here talking to you, I see that you're kind of, I wouldn't say out of the box thinker, but you are definitely, you have innovative and non-traditional ideas. I'll just put it like that, as it relates to engaging parents and students, and also recruiting educators here locally. But what I wanted to offer at this point, because your platform is Listen to Lead, I wanted to announce that we're going to be on probably for another 15 minutes, just going back and forth, having a conversation. If you'd like to call in or ask a question or make a comment live on the call, please give me a call at 254-315-6233. That's 254-315-6233. You will be live talking to Pastor Marlon right now. I kind of sprung this on him. I know we didn't talk about this beforehand, but with a slogan of Listen to Lead, I'm sure you won't be thrown aback by engaging the public, because that's really what listening is about engaging the public and allowing their voices to be heard. So if anybody wants to call, please, or make a comment, please don't hesitate. And if you're shy about getting on the phone, you can also send a text to that number if you have a comment you'd like to make as well. I think we're having a very important conversation right now with a leader in our community, and someone who wants to take their leadership to another level. As someone who has never, ever ran for public office, I truly understand making that step is a huge step.
Yeah.
And it's not just you that's making that step. It's you and your family going out in the public sphere to make a difference in our community. And I want to personally say, whether you win or lose, I want to say thank you, Pastor Marlon, for putting your hat in the ring, so to speak, and and giving us people in our community a voice, man, because a lot of us have a lot to say.
Yeah,
Like me, I can run my mouth all day long, but at the end of the day, it's guys like you that put their reputations, they put their to be scrutinized, and their lives for them and their families' lives to be scrutinized and picked over, man. And that takes tremendous courage, man. I want to personally thank you for that, man, because I know it was a big step. But as a pastor, I'm sure it's not foreign to you to be in the spotlight or under certain scrutiny. Has that prepared you for the task that you're undertaking?
It most definitely has helped. It has helped. But and I also want to say that I am running to win. So
Okay.
that I have my eye on the prize. And so I most definitely need the support of all of the listeners. My role as a pastor has prepared me in many ways, but I've always been bivocational. And so I've always pastored and always worked a 9 to 5. And
Okay. You're a preacher with a job.
that's it. That's it.
Okay.
And so
All right.
I say that because it keeps me grounded in the reality of ministry. But I'm not just somebody who's up on Wednesday and Sunday, but 9 to 5 I'm pounding the pavement, and so I know what that's like, and that has been a balance that I've done for years. And I say that because my roles have always had me immersed within the community. My current role, I serve as the VP of Leadership Development for an organization called Starry. We do have a presence here in Waco. We provide counseling services for children and families. We have a special program for fathers, and we also have a foster care and an adoption program. And we are in 30 plus counties throughout the state. And so in my role there, I am helping to develop the leaders in our organization. And I say all of that because this is challenging for me, because with the roles that I've had, they have been somewhat public, but I'm still a very private person. We did our official announcement this past Saturday, and I was struggling with the live because I've never downloaded Facebook on my phone. Right, I'm just because I just try to guard myself against becoming consumed. I think technology is a wonderful tool, but a horrible master, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. And so it's stretching me in that way, because you have to be extremely transparent, and that is something that I usually keep my family life, very private. But having to share some of the struggles that I went through. People, I was talking to one of my church members today, and they shared with me that her husband grew up in a single parent home. I said, yeah, I did too. And they said, Pastor, I didn't know that. And it's just not something that I often share, but it is my reality. And so when I think about WacoISD, and I think about the students that make up WacoISD, in many ways, I identify with some of the struggles that students face. My story is not the story where I was just a top-notch student. I wasn't. I was in the middle of the pack. I love sports, and sports allowed me to keep my grades at passing, and that's just because I wanted to be on the court. But the reality is, senior year, I had the opportunity to go play basketball on a scholarship and turned it down because I didn't feel like I was college material. I felt like I struggled in high school, and there's no way that I could possibly do well in college. And so I took a track scholarship at the local community college. And after a month of running track, because I didn't love it, I quit the team and forfeited my scholarship, dropped out of college. and didn't tell my parents. My mama, she was going to work, and I got up like I was going to school because I couldn't tell her I lost my scholarship. And that's my reality. And so before I graduated from Paul Quinn, and before I graduated from TCU, I had passed up on 2 scholarships and dropped out of college. It wasn't a straight path for me. I had to struggle, and there was a lot that I learned in that process. And so I just think that experience of going through hitting multiple potholes, now allows me to be a speed bump before young people hit a brick wall, and really provide direction that's needed.
Yeah, man. It seems like you have a very compelling story. And as I follow your campaign and continue to watch you run, and I have a few more questions for you related to school, because, like I say, young people in schools, they're a passion of mine, and I you know, and I again, I think there are a lot of things we do really well here in Waco. Uh, Even at our schools, we do some things really well, but I think there's some things that we can improve on. And what is your feeling around? I just learned this term, what it's called, but hopefully you know what it means, and I won't have to do an explanation. But you can explain it if you choose. Wraparound services. How do you feel about doing wraparound services in our school? And can you explain what wraparound services are? I'm not as I know what they are and could consist of, but what does that mean to the lay person out there that's running wraparound services? And what is your feeling about wraparound services provided in school?
So wraparound services, it recognizes that schools are not designed to meet every need of a child or a student. Primarily, schools are about academics and learning. Now we
Mhm.
know that educators take on so much more. In fact, education is has been shifting, and there is a recognition for what is called social emotional learning, where the learning is becoming much more holistic. But still, the primary focus is academics. And so, since students are so much more than IQ, they also have EQ, this emotional quotient. What types of services can the community provide? Can other organizations provide that will assist a student in being successful? What services can we wrap around a student that will help them in their areas of need? So maybe that there's a student that doesn't have food at home. Is there a partnership that we can collaborate with that can help students take snack packs home for the weekend? Um, it much like Story, if a school is overwhelmed, and they don't have the resources to provide mental wellness, as we are going through this pandemic, are there organizations that we can partner with that can help kids with therapy or some things like that? And so it's just recognizing that a school is not designed to meet every single need of a student. And so then let's bring in those additional services. Let's partner with organizations that can help meet the various needs of students. And I think that is something that is most definitely needed. Not only is it needed, I think that is something that uniquely positions Waco ISD to be a district of choice. And that is a goal for me. It is not just to be a district that moves from failing to meeting standard, but to become a district of choice. That people will look at Waco ISD and say that's the place that I want to be, and that happens not just by what goes on in the classroom, but also the partnerships that we can establish. We have rockets being tested in our backyard. There's no way we should not have some type of aerospace program taking place. Right? That's a partnership that you develop. We have an attraction here locally that brings people from across the world. There's no way we shouldn't be tapped into those things. We have tons of small businesses, much like yours, that have expertise and wisdom. There's no way we shouldn't be partnering and connecting our students to these programs. That's essentially what I did in my role at an organization called Youth Entrepreneurs. I worked literally with schools across the nation. And we're sitting in startup Waco now, but I remember in Arizona, there is a co-working space called Cahoots. Cahoots, every year or twice a year, they have a startup weekend for high school students. And it is an opportunity for high school students to come create a business, pitch their business idea, and then the winner of the competition, each person in that group gets a scholarship. I was able to pull together a partnership with Cahoots to bring kids from Kansas, Georgia, Michigan, Texas, Arizona to compete in this weekend, and then see some of the kids that I brought walk away with the scholarship. So it's knowing that these relationships are there and then bringing them together to be able to support students so that they have success.
Hey, man. Like I said, I want to thank you for explaining that. You did it so much better than I ever could, and gave some real practical examples of those wraparound services, man, and also gave us a indication as to what your experience is in directly providing wraparound services. And
Yeah.
so, with all that experience, man, I think you know you would be a great fit for our district. Um, um, Now, I have another question, and this is a very, very important question. And if we wanted to support your campaign, volunteer or make a donation, how would we do that, Pastor Marlon?
Yeah. Go to Marlon, the number 4, WacoISD.com. Marlon 4, WacoISD.com. When you go there, there's a form. The form is going to pop up in about 2 or 3 seconds. But if it doesn't, you can click on the button that says Get Involved. And once you click on that button, it lists a number of ways that you can support. You can support by giving. You can support by hosting listening sessions. You can support by canvassing, by phone banking. There are a number of different ways that you can support. So if you visit that website, Marlon for WacoISD.com, you can just let us know that you want to get involved, and we'll be able to get you plugged in.
All right, cool. Are you able to see that, Marlon?
That's it. That's the form. That's the form.
All right. This is Parliament. This is the website right here. I wanted to make sure we got there. It's Marlon for WacoISD.com. That's Marlon for WacoISD.com. And there's a form that pops up when you reload it. So kind of give people an idea how it kind of functions.
Or you could even click on that to get involved.
Oh, okay, cool. Cool.
Mm-hmm. And then I want to can I while you're there, one thing that I recognize is that the district is some 65% Hispanic, and if you're going to represent the community, you have to be sensitive to the needs of the community. If you could go back to the top of that page.
Okay. Let me go
there's
back
a
up to the top.
Yeah, there's a drop down that says English. If you click on that, it'll also give you the option to view the website in Spanish.
Oh, okay. For our Spanish speaking brothers and sisters.
Yeah, so it is recognizing and being sensitive to
that
reality, that that
That's
the goal
dope.
is to serve all of Waco, and I am no doubt African American. I love being Black, but I understand that in the role of a trustee at large, the goal is to serve all of Waco, and I want to make sure I'm doing that. And so, to the extent that I even have a DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion manager on our leadership team who is bilingual, so that when I'm doing listening sessions in communities where I don't speak the language, I have somebody that can help translate, because I really am committed to serving all of the students in Waco ISD.
Hey man, that's great. Those are the kind of things that a lot of times are overlooked in local campaigns, but I think are essential. Is that we have to reach out to all communities, not just our own communities.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have made your site bilingual is a credit to that. And, you know, even though I can't read very much on it, I know there are a lot of families
Yeah.
and students in our district who really appreciate that gesture uh, that you made of making your site bilingual. Again, it's just another way to, and it just further points out that you are willing to listen in order to lead, man. And so I commend you on doing that, man. We've been on here about 50 minutes, man, and you got off the hook this time because it doesn't look like anybody called in or sent a text. So you got off the hook this time, man. But I definitely want to thank you for coming on, man, on such short notice. You've done an amazing job of articulating the reasons why you're running and everything. But as we move forward, I definitely want you to come back after the primaries and everything is over in March, and probably as it get closer to the campaign, we can sit down and have another discussion once you're a seasoned politician.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
In about 2 weeks, you'll be a seasoned
Wow, we'll
politician,
see. Yeah,
and
we'll see.
you'll be an expert, man. Again, I had the opportunity of interviewing several candidates as they're running for local office, man, and this you are definitely one of the most impressive candidates that have come on and interviewed, and so I definitely, you know, think you have a great chance of winning, and um, you have a great opportunity. Like I said, I believe you're qualified more so than anything. You're not just black, and you're not just a preacher. You're
Yeah.
qualified, and that means a lot, man. Because that's what our kids deserve, Pastor Marlon. Our kids deserve qualified representation.
Yes,
Our
sir.
kids and parents and our community deserve
Mhm.
qualified representation on the school board. But before we leave tonight, I got to give you an opportunity to have the final words before we close everything out.
So I'll close. This is something that your comment just brought to mind. I managed for a couple of years a boys and girls club, and I remember going through an executive leadership training with Boys and Girls Club. Angela Ware was leading the training, and one thing that she said has stuck with me. She said, "You never chase a title, but you chase responsibilities." She said, if you look at a job description and you can fulfill the responsibilities, then you go after it, not because of the title, but because of the responsibilities. And I firmly believe that I am more than qualified to be a trustee on the school board. And it's not about the title, but it is about embracing those responsibilities and really helping our district become a district of choice.
Hey, well, I appreciate you, Pastor Marlon, man. You've been, like I said again, you've been a great um, interview. I really enjoyed the conversation. I could go on, but we'll save a little bit for our next conversation later on in the election cycle. Again, if the people that want to support Marlon, please go to Marlon for WacoISD.com. And so if you have nothing else, I'll drop you off. And I got a few things I want to say to the people before I let go. But man, thank you for being on the call. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
All right. All right. Few things I want to say. All right. So here's where we are. We have a very important election going on in our community. I've just had Pastor Marlon Jones on, and he is clearly a qualified candidate to represent our community, our parents, and our students. That's the kind of guy that should be on the school board. And I'm not saying that's not an endorsement, right? But that's just saying that's the kind of man that needs to be on our school board. Somebody who has worked in the community, who has extensive experience, not only in business, but also in schools, and has a passion for doing that kind of work. Because at the end of the day, WISD School Board is not a compensated position. You don't get money for that. It is a voluntary post. Though it's a very important post, it is a voluntary post. There is no compensation for it. People do it out the goodness of their heart. However, it's very important. It's very important in crafting and allowing our kids to have the tools they need to be successful in our community. It's very important. The people who have had these positions over the past over 20 years, if I had to be honest with you, those people have failed our children. When you look at the results, when you look at the facilities, when you, by any measure, over the last 20 years, whoever sat in that post has to take the responsibility of the district being in the condition that it's been in. And though with all the hard work of the teachers, all the hard work of the faculties, at the end of the day, the buck stops at those trustees. And those trustees who have served far longer than most of the superintendents in our district have not left the district in a great position. There's a lot of hope on the horizon. There's a lot of hope on the horizon, and with all the work from the city and the current school district and all the things that are happening, there is hope. But without the right leadership, our district could easily continue to be in its same circumstance. And that's why you need innovative thinkers, you need strong leadership, and somebody who is willing to listen to the concerns of the community, the parents, and the students. Again, we cannot sit these local elections out. And I don't care if it's school board or city council. We cannot sit these elections out. These elections are vital to our community. They are the people that make decisions about what will happen in our community for the next 5, 10, 15 years. There are things being done in East Waco that have never been done before. There's development happening in East Waco that's never happened before. And there is a reason for that. At the end of the day, it all goes back to leadership. It all goes back to leadership. We have to put the right people in the right seats in order to get the right outcomes. We have to have qualified people in those seats in order to get the right outcome. And again, it's not an endorsement of Pastor Marlon or anything like this. It's just saying that he is a qualified candidate and he is capable of representing our students, our families, and our communities, man, in our community. That's the kind of guy you want. I don't even know who his opponent is, right? But I know we have one qualified candidate in the pool already, and I'm thankful as a citizen of Waco and a member of the community that we have at least one. And he came to talk to me on the Word according to Rocky, and I certainly appreciate that. You know, hopefully we'll be having many more of these conversations as the election season rolls on. But as the Texas Coalition of Black Democrat president, we cannot get the people in office that we want in office if we don't go out and support those people. And we don't go out and support those causes, and we don't support people who are willing to support our policies. Again, I'm the president of the Texas Coalition of Black Democrats, McLennan County. Currently, we have about 36 members. We should have 40,000 members in McLennan County, but we only have 36. So if you would like to become a member of the Texas Coalition of Black Democrats, please reach out to me. We need your support. This has been The World According to Rocky, and I'm your man, Rocky. Peace, much love, and I'm out.